Welcome back. I'm joined now, Rakeem Brawley, men's JV basketball coach here at Mooresville High School. Rakeem, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, Joe.
Coach, you know, it's an exciting time for Blue Devil basketball right now. And I know it's an exciting time for you. We were talking, you know, before that you're working on your master's degree and doing some of those things. But can you share with the viewers a little bit at home who Rakeem Brawley is, a little bit about you?
Yes, attended Mooresville High School, graduated in '02, played for the Blue Devils, so it's an honor to actually come back and actually be a coach here with the Mooresville program. I take Mooresville program as pride as probably a lot of other graduates have, and the one thing that we look forward to is just building a program here and having basketball stand out a little bit more in the Mooresville community. You know, throughout the years, Mooresville hadn't really had that nice season or that winning season here in the Mooresville basketball program, and we're looking forward to changing that. Really?
So now you graduated from here, played here, went on to college, and now you actually teach in the school as well. What do you teach here at Mooresville?
I'm actually a special ed teacher assistant. I help out with the SED program, severe and profound, and also any EC services that may be required at the high school. I enjoy what I do, and the one thing that I believe in is that kids need second chances, and that's why I chose special ed.
Awesome. Well, I know through my Civitan involvement, we do a Christmas party every year for the EC children, and it's a wonderful program. And now my daughters are in the junior Civitan program and have got to participate in that. And it really is something that those kids are a lot of times misunderstood with how far they can actually go with a little bit of love and care.
And I think that's the one thing that got me into the special ed, because every kid needs a little bit of guidance. Me, myself, growing up, if I had that little extra guidance, I probably would have been a whole lot further in life by now. So that's the reason that I chose to go into the special ed curriculum field. And, you know, I just believe in that any kid, you know, in the Mooresville Graded School District, Mooresville High School, they can do it with a little help. And so that's awesome. The reason for the choice.
Well, that's wonderful. Well, talking about coaching now.
That's the big one.
Yeah, well, you are the JV basketball coach, and a lot of people, JV doesn't always get a lot of notoriety, a lot of credit, but talk to us about the challenges of coaching a JV program, and especially in a sport like basketball, where it is a marquee sport.
You know, one of the first things I would like to talk about is maturity. You know, coming to a JV program, you know, not really maturing a lot with your body physically, with your mind mentally, it puts a lot of wear and tear on you, you know, because a middle school season isn't but like, I think, 10 games or so. And so that 10-game season is over with in a month and a half. So when the 8th graders come up to a JV program, they go from a 10-game season to almost a 20-something game season. And so that's where I think mentally they have to have that mindset that they can go past that and fight through the physical toughness that it takes to compete in the conference here at Mooresville.
Well, when you're coaching JV athletes, what's kind of the biggest thing, besides maturity now, between like the varsity program and the JV program? What are some of the differences in coaching at that level?
Work ethic is a real big one. You know, 9th graders coming in, they don't tend to work as hard, or they tend to work to where they're capable of as far as what's gotten them through to this point. So that's a big one. Also, the drive to get better. You know, as an athlete anywhere, you have to have that drive to get better at something that you don't do as good as you should. So that's one of the things that I see as JV, and the difference between JV and varsity, because varsity, they've been through the JV ranks, so they've already had that work ethic. We've coached them through that, and so now they're putting it to the test at the varsity rank. So that's eventually what the JV players want to get to. So I would say the biggest thing would be the JV work ethic. Guys got to come in and they got to have that want to, desire, determination, and dedication to get through so that they can one day play at the varsity level.
Awesome. Well, yeah, I know you and I have talked on different occasions that when you're coaching in a game and coaching in practice, you're not coaching for that 5:30 seat on the bench. You're coaching for that 8 o'clock seat on the bench.
Yeah, and that's what it's all about. It's about, you know, wins and losses all around, but most importantly, it's about a player's progression. You know, if we can get a guy that's a freshman, he may not be the best, but if we can turn him around with that 9th and 10th grade year, including the summers, then they'll be a good varsity players for us. That's our biggest goal. And me as a coach, that's what I'm here for. You know, it's all about the varsity program, and it's all about the Mooresville program completely. But it starts with the foundation, and that foundation is built at the JV level.
And that's true, and you know, we've seen it with the football program where Coach Capps has not only taken the varsity and the JV program, but now he's actually got the middle school coaches coaching on the bench on Friday night, kind of implementing his offensive philosophy. Are you and Coach Miklo working towards that with the middle school here as well?
Yeah, we're working towards that, and that's one of the biggest challenges around here is just, you know, just trying to get people to want to be determined to coach that basketball as an extra sport. You know, we have a lot of individuals that may look to do it, but it does take a lot of time. So it's very time consuming. We're working on that. Eventually, this summer coming up, we're going to look to do some things with the 7th and 8th graders over the summer, maybe inviting them over for open gym, open workouts, and just getting their mindset ready so that when they do come across to the high school, they'll already be prepared mentally somewhat for what's expected of them.
Well, that's one of the things, you know, with IMECK Sports, we get to work with all the, you know, the schools, all 8 schools, and talk to the athletic directors and the coaches. And, you know, one of the challenges that most of those schools have with their JV program is that they're not only the maturity, but they're acclimating 2 or 3 middle schools coming into their program. Mooresville has that advantage that it hasn't really capitalized on, that there's only 1 middle school program. And so, you know, I think I'm excited to hear that you guys are working towards reaching down to that middle school program, because I think that's something that's been overlooked a lot of times in the continuity, because our middle school programs at Mooresville High School tend to be very dominant in their respective conferences, and then that transition to JV and varsity sometimes looks like the program step back, when in reality you've got, you know, the competition bringing together all their good players, where our good players have been together for a few years.
Yeah, I know one of the biggest things that I've seen from my experiences here at Mooresville is that, you know, guys got to play all year round. You know, whether that's playing middle school, AAU, just playing open gym, but guys got to have that want to and desire to get better each and every day. And I think with us implementing some of the things at the middle school level, it'll help with that continuity between the 7th and 8th grade program and also the JV and varsity program. So that's one of the biggest changes that you'll see. Also, you know, we're going to be looking to do some different workouts to develop that physical toughness, because, you know, going from that middle school level to that JV to that varsity level, physical toughness plays a big part in that.
It really does.
And playing in this IMECK conference, you can see a guy that's 6'4", weighing in about 215 on a JV team. So you got to understand that physical toughness, and just taking that summer that you're going from middle school to JV, very important, and taking it very serious to get your body right and get your mind right, and that'll help you out as a player coming in on a JV year.
Awesome. Well, we've talked about the program. What about Rakeem Brawley? What are kind of some of your goals? I know we mentioned you're working on your master's degree, so I know that's got some impact in your teaching future, but what about your basketball and coaching future?
I just see myself continuing to help out the Mooresville program. My desire here is to get the program to where, like I said, we're back again on top. You know, we're doing real well in the IMECK conference right now, and it's a tough conference, one of the best in North Carolina. So that's our ultimate goal. We've already had some talks about next year with us losing 7 seniors. We're gonna have to be in a rebuilding process. So my main goal is just getting kids better. You know, getting kids to progress. If they want to play this game for happily at the JV level or the next level, which is college, they gotta have that desirable want to about themselves.
Really
so that's what one of my goals is. Another one is just, you know, one day eventually getting a head coaching job, maybe here at Mooresville, not only if not at Mooresville, somewhere in the surrounding area. But right now I'm stuck here in Mooresville, and that's where I want to be in my program. And I think this program right here, what I'm trying to do with the JV program, is going to help the varsity out in it eventually.
Well, that's awesome, because you're right. The IMECK conference is, especially when it comes to basketball, is dominant. People don't realize, if you go back and look last 10 years, 5 of those 10 years the state champions come out of this conference.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
I mean,
you know, and that's the one thing that we've been preaching all year long, is that, you know, we go over and talk to the middle school guys, and some of them come to our games, and every time I see one of them, I gotta make them understand that, or I try to get them to understand that, you know, it's going to take a lot of work ethic to get better and play in this conference, especially if you want to be a high caliber player. You know, nobody gets better by just seeing it on TV, coming to the games. You got to put in that extra grind time that I call it as a coach to actually get better. And it don't come with just 2 hours a day. Basketball is not a 2-hour-a-day sport. You have to work at it, work at it to eventually get to where you want to be.
You really do, and that's the thing. Those kids coming up don't really realize the fact of the talent level that's in the IMECK conference. When you look at the state of North Carolina and the top 25, 30 recruits that are in North Carolina for basketball going to the next level, the first 7 are private school guys. They play at, you know, one of the schools, Davison Day, that we beat in the Christmas tournament. Northside's got a couple of those guys that we lost to in the Christmas tournament. You know, Faith United is where the other 3 are. Then Sean, who's at Mooresville, is that next guy. But then you've got Siobhan Wiggins, you've got you know, Kennedy Meeks, you've got Michael Brown. I mean, you start going down the list of guys, and it's a who's who of that top 25 public school recruits play right here in this conference.
And that's one of the disadvantages, I would say, is that, you know, here at Mooresville, with it being a public school, we can't do all the recruiting and some of the other stuff that private school can. So, you know, with Sean being in that top 25 top players in North Carolina, that's a big honor for not only him, but for us as a program. Because Sean has done it the right way, I feel. You know, he's put in the time, he's put in the work, and now he's eventually seeing it by his ranking, by signing a college offer to play for the 49ers of UNC Charlotte. And that's what it takes, you know, getting into a program, sticking with it, and putting in that hard work, no matter what. It never tells what you can do for that program. And Sean has showed that, and he showed the Mooresville community that.
Sean shows it, and there's, you know, I think realistically, Kendrick Johnson may have an opportunity at the next level as well. I mean, he's probably truly the best shooter that varsity team has. I mean, Sean gets a lot of the credit for his athletic ability and all the other pieces, but when you look at pure shooter and you put Kendrick in a program like a VMI or a Richmond that runs and guns and doesn't rely on size, he could actually make a difference.
Yeah, Kendrick, by hands down, he's the best shooter that we have on the team. He's really stepped up and embraced the leadership role too, and I think that him and Sean going through that 9th grade year where they both played varsity didn't play a bunch of minutes, but they got the experience and they built that expectation that they wanted to get better each year, has helped them with their senior year. I think that Kendrick, eventually he will have a chance, and I think that a lot of college coaches are going to end up biting on him because he's a great athlete. Not only he gets it done in the classroom as well. And that's what a lot of athletes got to understand, is that it's more to athletics than just getting it on the court or getting it on the field. You also got to be able to do it in the classroom.
You have to do it in the classroom. So, and I think that's something that you and Coach Miklo both preach to your guys, you know, and you especially with those freshmen coming up. That's another maturity thing. It's, you know, because the JV team, unlike the varsity team, they're driving to games at 4 o'clock in the afternoon because the girls play at 4 and they play at 5:30. Then they're hanging around to watch the varsity teams play. So their nights of trying to get their homework done is actually a lot harder than even the varsity guys who have that couple-hour window after school to knock out their stuff. So they've got to have that priority. Yeah,
we took that. I mean, that's the #1 achievement around here. I mean, Mooresville basketball program, we want to win and we want to do it the right way, but most importantly, we got to get our guys graduating. We got to get our GPA up, and we've done a great job of that. And we do a lot of communication with teachers, and, you know, that's the one thing that I say is athletes, they're a student first, and I preach that from day one. And, you know, being a student athlete, it takes a lot of time. And so with our JV kids, we teach them that, you know, you got to get that homework done or get that tutoring done on practice days or when you can go. You know, don't worry about practice, get there when you can, but most importantly, you got to get it done in the classroom. And so if you can't get it done in the classroom, it'll be hard for us to use you there. So we try to preach that student first mentality.
And see, that's a great thing. So Rakeem, we appreciate you sitting down. I know you've got to get back to it right now, but, you know, we appreciate you joining us. We come back, we'll have the schedules for the upcoming week where you can go check out the student athletes of the IMECK conference. Joe Cullen for Rakeem Brawley, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Joe.